Hi. I'm the unpopular philosopher, and today I wanted to make a new video. I want to start a series where I will explain less known conflicts, as I believe the public should be aware of their existence and how it shapes our world. One of these conflicts is the civil war in Sudan. Sudan's journey toward its current conflict has been shaped by a long history of colonialism, ethnic divisions, and struggles for power. The country's history of conflict dates back long before the most recent war, as internal divisions have been a consistent factor in Sudanese society. The modern history of Sudan began when they became independent from being under British Egyptian rule from 1899 to 1955, a period that deepened the regional and ethnic divides within the country. British authorities, who controlled Sudan, favored the northern, Arab Muslim elites and neglected the southern regions, which were primarily African, Christian, and animist. This divide would later contribute significantly to the country's internal strife. Upon independence in 1956, Sudan's leadership, composed mostly of northern Arab elites, failed to integrate the southern Sudanese populations into the political fold. Instead, they pursued Arabization and Islamization policies that exacerbated tensions between the North and South. These early tensions would eventually lead to the First Sudanese Civil War from 1955 to 1972. First Sudanese Civil War began just before Sudan gained independence, as ethnic and religious tensions sparked the First Civil War. Southern Sudanese rebelled against the northern government's attempts to impose Arab cultural and Islamic practices on the south. The war, which lasted from 1955 to 1972, resulted in over 500,000 deaths and significant displacement. The conflict officially ended with the Addis Ababa Agreement in 1972, granting the South some degree of autonomy. However, the underlying issues were never fully resolved, and the North-South divide remained. In 1969, General Ghaffar Nimeri took power in a military coup. His rule initially stabilized Sudan, but he alienated many sectors of the population. Nimeri's decision to introduce Islamic law, Sharia, in 1983, which applied strictly to the north, sparked a new wave of resentment from the south, where the population followed different religions. This led to the Second Sudanese Civil War from 1983 to 2005, a bloody conflict that reignited the North-South tensions. The war was fueled by the southern demand for autonomy and the government's desire to impose Islamic law across the country. The Sudan People's Liberation Movement, SPLM, led by John Garang, fought against the northern government, and the conflict led to an estimated 2 million deaths and 4 million displaced over the 2 decades. This conflict ended with the Comprehensive Peace Agreement, CPA, in 2005, which led to the creation of South Sudan in 2011. However, the separation did not resolve the core issues of governance, resource distribution, and ethnic divisions within Sudan. As the North-South conflict seemed to subside, a new conflict erupted in the western region of Sudan, Darfur. Beginning in 2003, rebels in Darfur accused the government of neglecting the region and discriminating against non-Arab ethnic groups. The Sudanese government, under President Omar al-Bashir, responded by arming Arab militias known as the Janjaweed, who carried out brutal atrocities against non-Arab populations. The conflict in Darfur is considered genocide by many, with estimates of over 300,000 deaths and more than 2 million displaced. The violence and humanitarian crisis attracted international attention, and the United Nations authorized a peacekeeping mission. Despite peace agreements, the situation remained volatile for years, with ongoing violence and instability. A critical factor in Sudan's ongoing wars has been the control of natural resources, particularly oil. Much of Sudan's oil was located in the southern regions, leading to resource-related tensions. When South Sudan gained independence in 2011, it took the majority of Sudan's oil reserves, further straining relations between the two nations. Sudan has since been left with fewer resources to manage, fueling tensions over the remaining oil fields in disputed territories like Abyei. Moreover, Sudan is rich in gold and other minerals, which have attracted various armed factions vying for control. The Rapid Support Forces, RSF, one of the factions fighting against the Sudanese army today, is heavily involved in the gold trade, using it to finance their operations. This makes the conflict about more than just political power, it's also a battle for economic dominance over the country's wealth. In 1989, Omar al-Bashir seized power in a coup, overthrowing the democratically elected government of Prime Minister Sadiq al-Mahdi. Initially, Bashir's regime was backed by Islamist groups, and his government pursued a policy of Arabization and Islamization, creating tensions with non-Arab and non-Muslim populations. Bashir's government was marked by repression, economic mismanagement, and increasing isolation on the international stage. His regime was accused of gross human rights violations, particularly in Darfur, and he was charged with war crimes and crimes against humanity by the International Criminal Court, ICC. Despite this, Bashir maintained power for nearly 3 decades. In April 2019, following months of popular protests against his government's economic policies, corruption, and human rights abuses, Bashir was ousted. The power vacuum created by his removal led to a fragile transition to civilian rule, which was interrupted by a military coup in October 2021. In 2023, the conflict between the Sudanese Armed Forces, SAF, and the Rapid Support Forces, RSF, led by Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo, escalated into an all-out war. The RSF, initially a paramilitary group formed from the Janjaweed militias, became a powerful force in Sudan's political and military landscape. The war has resulted in tens of thousands of deaths, with millions displaced and large parts of Sudan's infrastructure destroyed. This has been exacerbated by the involvement of foreign powers, including Egypt, which has provided support to the SAF, and Russia, which has been involved in the country's mineral extraction, particularly gold. Regional powers like Ethiopia and Uganda have also been involved, either through providing support to various factions or by absorbing refugees. The ongoing conflict has created a severe humanitarian crisis. According to the United Nations, over 3 million people have been displaced within Sudan, and neighboring countries like Chad have received large numbers of refugees. The war has also exacerbated food insecurity, with an estimated 15 million people in Sudan needing humanitarian assistance. The conflict has also deepened Sudan's political and ethnic divides, with no clear path to peace in sight. The failure to address Sudan's internal issues, ethnic discrimination, poor governance, and competition for resources, has perpetuated instability. In summary, the conflict in Sudan is the result of decades of political, ethnic, and economic struggles. Colonialism, resource competition, and failed attempts at peace have all contributed to the state of the country today. As Sudan continues to battle over its future, the role of external powers, the quest for resources, and unresolved ethnic tensions will continue to shape its destiny. The toll of this war is immense, with millions of lives affected, and the future of Sudan remains uncertain as the struggle for control rages on. If you want to stay updated, make sure to like and subscribe. Goodbye. Hi.